Um, so when you know, when I stopped drinking, I and I was drinking every day, and it was a way to numb myself from the world and myself. And what I didn't do at that time was to actually try and get to the source of the things that I needed to numb, um, or felt I needed to numb. So I, 20 years later, more than 20 years later, uh, I I came back to it and thought, okay, now I need to actually start to get working on this.
You also mentioned working on so many things and that you get quite nervous when you don't have something to work on. Um, is that what actually pushes you to try all these different things? Because not everyone is, doing music, doing charity work, doing all these social projects, doing creative work, everything. Is that the reason why you do it or something else?
Yeah, I think I when I sold the agency, I thought, well, it's time to relax and it's time to um, work on myself, which was helpful, and I did. But after a while, it became very obvious that if I was going to continue doing that, it was not going to lead me down a path that was actually helpful for me. Um, and so I realized, yeah, I need to be doing things, and I actually need to be doing a fair amount of different things because I also get bored quite a bit. Um, and it's very, I do, if I'm working on the same thing for a very long time, especially if I feel like I have already learned everything I need to learn about it, I become very frustrated, which is part of the reason why I think agency work is really nice for me because most of our projects are maybe 6 months to 12 months at the most, and then there's a new problem, and there's a new problem, um, with a whole different kind of set of people and problems and challenges, and that is always really inspiring to me, is going into something that I don't know a lot about and learning as fast as I can so I'm able to produce value for the people I'm working with.
Okay. You mentioned just now that you were working on yourself, and in one of your interviews, you said that you were rebuilding yourself brick by brick. What did you actually do? What did that involve, and how did you change?
Um, so when I stopped drinking, I and I was drinking every day, and it was a way to numb myself from the world and myself. And what I didn't do at that time was to actually try and get to the source of the things that I needed to numb, um, or felt I needed to numb. So I, 20 years later, more than 20 years later, uh, I I came back to it and thought, okay, now I need to actually start to get working on this. And there's a lot of different things that have happened in my life, and my way of moving on from them, because a fair amount of them, like my disease and um, losing my mother when I was young. Um, the only way I knew at that time how to deal with it was to ignore it, and just to put it in a box and never look into the box. And I think you can do that for a while, and it was the survival technique that I used, and it was probably the only way that I could move on. But as an adult, it was not the healthy way to keep moving on. Um, and so I did a lot of therapy. I did a lot of um, different kinds of therapies, both physical and mental. And I, over the course of 2 to 3 years, I was able to get to the bottom of these things. Not to say that they're fixed by any means. There's still a lot of work to do, but at least I'm in a better shape than I was. I was able, I was using, I started using SSRI drugs um, to, um, basically, anxiety and depression drugs um, when I was about 26. Again, it was at that time it was necessary, but then 20 years later, when I looked up, it felt like I was numb to the pain, and I was numb to all these things. And so when I started the process of sort of weaning myself off this medication, a lot of these a lot of the boxes basically opened, and I had to learn how to deal with them um, in a better way. And it's only been, I don't know, 6 months since I completely stopped using any kind of anxiety medication, and it's so far I'm holding myself together mostly, but it is a challenge. But I'm better equipped to deal with it than ever before, so um, I feel very grateful that I was able to get here and hopefully continue to move forward.
And that's really a impactful thing to say, and to have that bravery actually to work on yourself, and especially in with all those things that happened to you and everything you went through. So I really, really appreciate you talking about it.